Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen, cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading, from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and on today's episode, we have Joe Westmoreland talking to me about his book, Tramps Like Us. And my guest gay reader today is Rob Franklin, whose book, Great Black Hope, just came out a couple of weeks ago. Both of their bios can be found in the show notes. Tramps Like Us has such an interesting story behind it. It originally was published in 2001. It was sort of lost to the world, and MCD at FSG just picked it up to republish for the first time since then. And it's very exciting to have this sort of historical piece of queer fiction live on in the world. And so you'll learn more about that in this episode. As always, if you like what you're hearing, please share us with your friends. Follow us on social media. We are at Gaze Reading on Instagram. There are giveaways and all the things happening all the time. I am so grateful to all of you listeners. There's so much happening in the world right now. And, you know, books, I think, can be a solace and also dust up some difficult things. And I don't know, I'm grateful that you clicked play on this. I'm happy to spend the time chatting about books with you. As I've mentioned on multiple episodes, I have recently started a book club on Allstora. You could check out the link for that in the show notes and on Instagram. The July pick is Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan, and you can join the club for as little as $1. And then every month the book will be delivered to your door, curated by yours truly. I've already picked out the next couple of books and I am so excited to share them with you. And so check out the link to learn more. And it's a super great deal. And I hope you join along the journey. It'll be really fun. All right. All of that said, thanks again for being here and enjoy my conversations with Joe Westmoreland and Rob Franklin.
My partner, Charlie, he bought the apartment in 1980 and it was like $12,000.
Oh my God.
We can't afford to move anywhere.
No, you're going to be there forever.
Ever. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah. It's like a floor through we have really high ceilings so you can, with the molding and.
Oh, I see those ceilings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
It's like we haven't renovated or anything, so it's beat up and worn out, paint chipping and stuff.
Classic, you mean?
Yeah.
It's classic.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Oh, how fun. How long have you been living there?
I've been here since 1990, so 35 years. And he's been here since 1980.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The book is a lot about looking for home and moving around, looking for someplace to live and someplace I felt safe. And I'm here. I've been here 35 years, so obviously I found my home.
Yeah, and that's so interesting too, because not only is the book about finding a home, but you really see these characters as transient people who are moving all the time.
Yeah.
So staying in one place for 30 years is quite the opposite.
Yeah, and the last thing I ever thought I would do
was stay put for 30 years.
Yeah, and be in a relationship that long too. Not too long ago, I was helping, because Charlie's 10 years older than me, and I was helping him out of the bathtub not too long ago. And we were like having trouble, but anyway, I just started laughing, and I was like, oh my God, can you believe that we're doing this, that we've been together so long, that I was like, oh, we're growing old together. And I said something like, did you ever think when we first met we would be doing this? And he immediately said, no, not at all. That was not his plan.
What did that feel like when you had that realization?
It felt comforting, actually. But also, it's just time is so weird.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like yesterday, and then it seems like a long time ago. Charlie keeps saying, I'm a different person than I was then. And I'm like, no, I'm the same person, but different circumstances.
That's interesting. A piece of advice that we got when we got married was how we won't be the same people as we are the day that we're getting married, and to learn to grow and change with each other.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
to your point, at your core, you are the same person, right? So
Yeah.
there are things about you maybe that have changed, but deep inside is still,
I'm still Joe.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I want to know how you're doing because I read, and your afterward is intense. You've had quite a life post writing the book, and I'm very curious to hear. We'll talk all about the book, of course, in a second. But are you good? How are things?
I'm good. Yeah, because I have long-term AIDS, which like people don't talk about that much. They think with the antivirals, AIDS is over or whatever.
Mm,
But I just I call them adventures. I have health adventures instead of a health crisis, because
that's
it's
a good way
always
of
an
looking at
adventure,
it.
and it's usually different no matter what happens. But
Hmm.
in the book, or in the afterward, I talk about I had a tumor on my liver, and I was having it removed, and I was scheduled for surgery on a Thursday, and the Saturday night before the tumor burst, and so that's where that little part kicks in. But
Yeah.
just right before Christmas, I found out that tumor had returned. I had a recurrence of it. At the end of January, I had surgery and I had it removed, and it was supposed to be like like really fast, simple surgery, but of course, my body's been through so much. It turned out to be
Hmm.
complicated, and I thought I'd be in 2 or 3 days, and I wound up being there 8 days, and caught COVID while I was in the hospital, and then I was like that was the end of January, so February and March, I was in the hospital 2 more times, just recovering from that. So it was intense, and I also caught norovirus
Oh
during
my
that
God.
time, and that one almost did me in. That was like the 1st of March, and I was so weak I couldn't lift my arm to lift my phone to call, and Charlie was in Boston at the time.
Mm,
So I was alone, and I couldn't call anybody, and if they came, they would have had to knock the door down anyway, but anyway,
hmm.
it worked out. But like the other night at the Strand at the book launch, I was sitting up there and feeling like fine and happy and joking around with Eileen and stuff. And I was just like, it's my body's amazing. It keeps bouncing back.
Yeah.
So,
It's like kind of crazy, Joe.
uh,
It's using the word adventure is not wrong.
yeah. My
Um,
oncologist said that I'm like a miracle of modern technology, or or chemistry, that like better living through chemistry kind of
wow.
thing. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't have survived like a decade before, because they didn't have the medicine to help me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm most compelled by is I think so many other people in your situation at some point would say, I can't deal with this anymore. And that doesn't seem to be your attitude at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep, even this time with when I had norovirus, and I wound up like back in the ICU later that
Hmm.
day and stuff. But I have this, and I've had it before, where I have this moment where it's like I can go to sleep and it'll everything will stop and it'll be okay. It won't be a bad thing, and I've had a good life. And I
Mm,
just keep thinking, no, there's something else I have to do. I'm not ready to go. I've got to make sure Charlie and my cat are okay. Just I want to write more. I want to get back, and
yeah.
I have book number 2 that's I'm always playing with a little bit at a time. And
Yeah.
but it's like I've had this decision: is, do you want to go to sleep? Do you want this to stop or not? And I'm always like, no, let's keep going.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Not to start on such a heavy topic,
Yeah.
but this book,
No, that's my life.
yeah, this book is a little heavy, Joe. A little heavy happening going on over here.
Yeah.
The getting, I'm curious to talk about the journey of the book first before we dive into what the book is about, because
Yeah.
you could write a whole book about the writing of the book and of the fallout of publication and all of that. I
Yeah.
find that story so, it's fascinating. It's incredible. It is the most horrible set of circumstances. And yet again, here we are. Can you share a little bit about initial publication and your intended pub party that you were going to have on your birthday, all of that. It's what a story, if you could share a
Yeah.
bit of that.
Yeah. But firstly, I talked about this the other night, and it's silly, but a friend of mine and I do this thing called, it's a creative visualization technique called the pink bubble technique. We imagine what we want and try to be as specific as we can, and then we surround it in a pink bubble of light and love, and then we float it off to the universe. And as it's floating up in the air, we say, this or something better is coming to me for the good of all concerned. It means I'm going to get it, and everybody else who has anything to do with it will have good things happen also.
Did you make this up?
No, it's in a book called Creative Visualizations by Shakti Gawain.
Okay.
Gawain. And it's like a small book with just basic instructions for different ways to visualize and meditate. But because it was a pink bubble, I was like, oh my God, I have to do that. It made it easier to get New Age or something. But I put my friend Deborah and I, we meet like every New Year's Day instead of New Year's resolutions. And we met like in a word processing center for a law firm. We were working next to each other, and we were both really miserable, and we wanted out of there. So we did a pink bubble to get better jobs, which we both found. But she wanted to move, but she had lived in San Francisco also, but her sublet was ending, and she needed an apartment, and she wanted a doorman apartment within walking distance of Lincoln Center, because she loved to go to Lincoln Center, and she moved to New York to go to Lincoln Center, and she was a dancer. And so we did our first bubble at the fountain at Lincoln Center, and it was better jobs, and for her to get, and I was like, she's never going to get a doorman apartment near Lincoln Center. I thought she'd probably have to move to Brooklyn, and this is before it was popular to live in Brooklyn.
Sure.
But then she got one of these, they're called 80-20 apartments, where 20% are low rent. And she got one it's on Riverside Drive, right across from her apartment looks down on the Hudson River, and it's just maybe 4 blocks to Lincoln Center. And it's a brand new apartment with a beautiful elevator and lobby and 2 or 3 doormen. Yeah. So we just kept going. And then after that, I finished the manuscript, and we put the book, and I needed an editor, and in order to get an editor, you needed an agent, but you couldn't have an agent if you didn't have an editor. And so I put that, and I really wanted Farrar Straus and FSG, and I put that in the bubble. And so it's 25 years later, everything I put in the bubble fell in my lap, kind of.
I was going to ask how long the bubble takes.
It can take it immediately. This was
Right.
a big.
This was a long journey of a bubble.
Yeah. It was a bubble that I forgot I did, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's that whole thing about trusting in yourself and listening to your inner voice. And even when I was looking for a publisher, this is 1998 or 99 or something. I called Farrar Straus, and the receptionist was really sweet. And she was like younger than me, and she was telling me that I needed to have my agent call them, that they didn't talk directly to authors. And I was like, I don't have an agent. And she was telling me that I needed to go find one, and then call back in a year, or maybe 3 years, or maybe 10 years. And she said, keep writing. And she totally got what I was doing, but she was telling me how the bald facts of it all.
Yeah. I wonder where she is now.
I know. I think about that. I'd like to thank her.
Yeah. We should ask FSG, who was the receptionist back in the late 90s. But it's very possible you can thank her.
Yeah.
That's so fun. The book started out as a memoir.
Yes.
What was the journey from memoir to fiction?
Okay. First, I was writing all these stories about my friends, and I took a memoir writing class at the 92nd Street Y that Hetty Jones taught. And Hetty Jones, I didn't know this until later, but she was married to Leroy Jones, who is also Amira Baraka, who was a beat poet. And she had been one of the editors at Grove Press when Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac she said Jack Kerouac slept on her couch.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so I was like, wow, this is my teacher. But she showed the class how to shape what the story, showed me how to shape my stories and turn them into a book that read, that made sense. And from there, I was writing it as a memoir. And then it started, in real life, I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And it just started getting confusing when I was talking about all my brothers and sisters. And there was stories that there was just too much detail and too many people and stuff. So I started making one person in the book out of 2 or 3 people that I knew.
Sure.
And some of the stories were 2 or 3 stories that I blended into one. And then there was a couple of places where it just wasn't working, and the story, as a book, it wasn't fitting together. So I made up a whole chapter, and there are a couple of chapters actually, but when I needed to, I put a fictional chapter in.
Sure. For our listeners, now that we have a little bit of context and backstory, what would you say is the elevator pitch of Tramps Like Us?
It's kind of cliche, but a coming of age story, but like a young guy looking for home and creating a family out of friends, like leaving a dysfunctional family and making a new one where he felt safe.
Yeah.
And all the trouble that I got into. I also talk, because it started as a memoir, when I talk about the book, I say me or I. But even though Joe, the character, is fictional or fictionalized, but I don't say a separate Joe. I just say it's me.
That Joe versus this Joe, right?
Sometimes I say young Joe.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I don't know, that it's a lot of things actually. It's
totally.
I wanted to remember my friends, and I wanted to tell this time where it got overshadowed by the AIDS crisis, but there was a time right before it that was really a lot of fun, and you're really free, and like gay liberation had opened the doors for all these possibilities, and we were like checking them out.
Yeah, I certainly haven't read a lot where the story straddles a significant amount of pre-AIDS, and something like Larry Kramer's The Normal Heart is really about activism. I think so much of what I have consumed is about activism, whereas this, we really get an insight to these humans and what it was actually like to not know what the hell was going on and just living life. So you see all of that in this story.
Yeah. And I felt like our lives were being overshadowed by AIDS, and like the big headline of AIDS and the horrors and all that. And it was really, but right before that, it was a lot of fun, but it was also this kind of magical time, even in the early days of AIDS, because we were depending on each other, and really, we didn't have anybody else to go to, and nobody knew what to do.
Yeah.
So we were figuring it out and not figuring it out, and everybody having nervous breakdowns and stuff. But also there was a lot of love. That was the big thing. There was so much love.
And you were saying that it's this, I'll say this character, Joe. I won't say you. Joe really embarks on this journey that I would argue some of that impetus is to see that he's not alone.
Yes.
And that was so important. What did that for you? What made you feel like there were others like you out there?
I think just like news reports and magazine, and I would see things on TV, and there'd be movies about runaways. And there was a book when I was in high school called Go Ask Alice. And it was this girl who ran away to San Francisco, and she got mixed up with this couple who had a boutique, and they hired her there, and then they started giving her drugs, and they slipped her LSD, and she started like having sex and taking a lot of drugs. And I think eventually she goes back home. That book and Zelda, the biography of Zelda Fitzgerald, those two, like almost every girl in high school had it in their pile of books. It was Go Ask Alice and Zelda.
So those were like ways
Insights.
for, insights and ways for you to almost fantasize about another world. Do
Yeah.
you have a moment where you where it was in the flesh, where you're like, wow, here I feel connected. I feel like I'm with my people. And I don't even necessarily mean gay or queer people, but there's a vibe. Later in the book, Joe, the character, Joe, the you, talks about revisiting home after leaving and how you don't really connect with those people anymore.
Yeah. There was a neighborhood in Kansas City where I think it was called Westport, and it was like it was like hippies were there, but it was post hippie, and there was like a vegetarian cafe, but it was a place where they had like foreign films and a theater that played foreign films, but it was, and clothes, you could get like interesting clothes or something. But there was that little neighborhood that I saw that there was a life, and it was right next to the Kansas City Art Institute.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to be with those people. And then, so somehow I knew that each city had a little neighborhood like that. So if I could find that, I'd be okay.
Yeah, I love that. Do you remember going to a gay bar for the first time?
Yeah. That was in New York. It was the Ninth Circle. And I talk about it in the book, but this guy picks me up, and it turned out he was the doorman at the Ninth Circle. I didn't know it at the time, but yeah. And actually, that's all, most of that's true. I talk about this guy who came up and was like dancing with a scarf or something, and that was Taylor Mead. He was like an Andy Warhol character. Yves Saint Laurent actually tried to pick me up, but I didn't believe it was him. And then I saw pictures of him later, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy. But,
oh wow, how funny.
Yeah.
What?
But it's like a hustler bar, mostly.
Oh, interesting. Do you remember life pre-gay bar and post-gay bar?
Well, I got this tour of Greenwich Village, and he explained who the different types of gay guys were and why they were dressed the way they were. But yeah, I think that kind of was the changing point. And when I did go back to Kansas City, and then my friend Ali in the book, he came back. I think he had been in Europe or maybe India. Like I traveled around the United States, and he went and traveled around the world. But he came back, and he took me to the gay bar in Kansas City. There were 3 or 4 of them, but the Cabaret was the big one, and upstairs was for women, and downstairs was for men. And that I had no idea before that. I grew up in the suburbs there. I had no idea there was a gay bar in Kansas City.
Like right under your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so we started going there, but yeah, that trip was the changing point.
Yeah. How do you cope, or did you cope, or I guess still cope with sort of the concept of everything changing but nothing changing? I feel like reading your book now, as I'm sure you have recently, looking back and thinking, wow, everything is different, and yet everything is the same.
Yeah. I started rereading it just recently. Over the years, I've read parts of it, or I've done readings and events and where I would find a chapter to read. But this is the first time in years that I've started at the first page and read it all the way through. And I'm halfway through the San Francisco part right now. But I keep thinking that the voice in my head is still the same. Like a lot has changed, and my body has really changed. And that's been hard to get used to. It's like I keep thinking that I look different, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Where'd it go? But Charlie told me, like, I was getting upset about our neighborhood changing because now there's lots of tourists, and it used to be it was gay when I first moved here, and then it got really gay for most of the 90s. It was like almost so much like we stayed inside because it was so intense.
It was too gay.
Yeah. And then that went away, and then all these tourists started coming here because of the High Line and Chelsea Market and the Whitney museums. And I really hated it. I really didn't like the change. And Charlie said, he goes, it's New York. New York is always changing. And, you know, that you just have to accept it and calm down. And so it took me a while to adjust to that. And now I'm like, okay. Like even like right now, baggy pants are in. Like the kids are wearing baggy pants. And I realize this is my third go around with baggy pants.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. When I first got to San Francisco, the baggy pants came in, and like they're more like painter's pants and things like that. Work pants. But
Are there other things like that where you're like, oh, here we go again. This has been there, done that.
yeah, the mustaches.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because I don't know, a little over a year ago had trimmed my beard and then had a predominant mustache. And this was before this new wave of mustaches were back. And then all of a sudden, everyone was just sporting the mustache. And I was like, no, I've never been ahead of the trend before. And it was this. And I'm like, all right, here we go. We're circling back again. I'm happy about it. All right, how do you feel about it?
Now I enjoy it. Like early on, like in San Francisco in the late 70s, early 80s, there was the clone look. And they had all the gay guys had, not all the gay guys, but
Yeah.
the
It was
style
a stereotype.
yeah, stereotype. Yeah. And it was like a uniform where they had a mustache and eyes on shirts and tight jeans. And it drove me crazy. And I hated it. And I got it that they were rebelling against the hippie look that was so all over the place and stuff. And also like having an identity. If you looked at them, you knew they were gay and they were like out. And so I got that, but I was like maybe a generation behind that coming after them. And so I was starting to rebel from that look.
Why did it drive you nuts?
Because I thought everybody looked the same, and I thought I
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
people to look different. And
That's so interesting.
yeah, I wanted people to like think more about how they looked. I guess they did.
Yeah. And I've clearly grown out the rest of my beard now. And it's like a little itchy and I want to shave it. But I'm like, no, everyone has the stupid mustache right now. I can't go back to my mustache look. I need to wait a little bit for it to cycle through again.
Yeah. Now it doesn't bother me like it did back then, but I still prefer not mustache. But sometimes I see a guy and I think he looks really sexy with it. So
yeah, I like to think that I look good with it, but it's okay.
Yeah. That's what's important.
Right. It's funny, when I was a kid, every once in a while my dad would shave and just have a mustache, and I thought he looked terrible. So I was like, if I look like that, I need my husband to tell me because that is not okay. Oh my God. I know. I'm curious what that will be for me. What will I clock and what will we cycle through? I guess it's my second round of baggy pants too. Yeah. When I was a kid, baggy pants were, I know it's like 90s clothes are in right now, which why? I don't know why. They weren't cute then. They're not cute now.
It's funny. And like in the 80s, I was into 60s clothes, and the guys that were older than me were like, why are you wearing that? I hated it then and I hate it now.
Yeah, I guess that's just what we do. We're so boring as humans.
Recycle.
I'm so curious to know, this book it's a travel book. It is a journey book, but so much of it involves hitchhiking. And you obviously, again, started as a memoir. You clearly did a lot of hitchhiking. And it just so happens that literally the day before I started reading this book, my husband and I were driving through the mountains and we saw a hitchhiker. And not that I couldn't believe it, but it seemed so retro.
Yeah, I know.
What was that like?
At the time, I just assumed it was okay. I didn't think that much about it.
Yeah.
But I know like older people were worried about me, like my parents and my friends' parents were. But I was there. It was the very tail end of it being safe, not maybe within a couple of years after I did it. Like people started getting murdered and stuff.
As far as it might have been very then too, we just didn't know about it.
And that's when I was reading the book and I was like, oh my God, I was 17 and I was standing out there in like hot pants. I had like shoulder length hair. And sometimes like guys would pick me up thinking I was a girl and they'd be disappointed when I got in.
Oh my God.
angels were watching over me or something. I don't know.
You were in a pink bubble that you didn't even know about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Were there, obviously there are stories in the book about what a hitchhiking moment turned into and interesting people that you met. Are there things that happened that aren't in the book that were formative, that were memorable to you? Sort of a general experience. Where were people the nicest? I don't know. Just thinking about, I think I have this aspiration of wanting that to be an interesting thing again. Not that I don't ever want to pick up a hitchhiker. I don't ever want to hitchhike, but I love the idea of meeting new people accidentally.
Yeah. A lot of people were just really nice, and some people were lonely and wanted to talk. I heard a lot of people's stories when I did it. And one time I met Loretta Lynn's illegitimate daughter, and we hitchhiked together for a while, like through maybe northern Georgia and the Carolinas and up towards DC. And yeah, and she was just crazy, I don't know, but she believed that she was Loretta Lynn's illegitimate daughter. And she showed me, she said, did I want to see a photo of her mother? And she got her purse out or wallet or whatever. And she had a newspaper clipping with a story about Loretta Lynn. And I thought she was going to have a photo of her mother. And it was just, and I was like, that's when I realized, she's not her real daughter.
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was looking for it in the book, and I was like, oh, I pulled that out. I forgot. This young guy, like really cute guy, had a white pickup, and he picked both of us up, and she was in the middle, and I think we were drinking beer, and just we had to get out, and he said he needed to rearrange stuff in the bed of his pickup truck. We got out, and then she got back in, and then they closed the door and drove off and left me on the side of the road.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, maybe something's going to happen here with the three of us. But they weren't interested in me.
Would you have been open to that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's the character of Joe or someone else in the book, but someone is trisexual, meaning that they'll try anything once.
Yeah. Ali. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that true for you?
Yeah, it was, but not like Ali was. Yeah. Yeah. He was definitely he was seriously bisexual, at least. It's not like he even thought about it. He just liked having sex, and he liked people, and it was all fun or all okay. And he had a girlfriend and had a boyfriend. And there's a story in there where he and our friend Kat, the three of us, have a little fling and party or whatever. But yeah, he used to brag about it. He's, I'm trisexual. I'll try it once, and if I like it, I'll try it again and again.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one more story about
Please.
hitchhiking?
Yes. I'm obsessed with them.
The first guy who picked me up, this is in Kansas City, and I was 17, right out of high school, and I wanted to join the Divine Light Mission. There was this 18 or 19-year-old guru who had a jet and lots of money and stuff, and his ashram was in Denver, so I was gonna go there and join that. Somehow I got into meditation or something, but I got to Denver. Oh, anyway, I wound up going to Boulder, and I wound up at the Naropa Institute, one of their first parties, and I found out later, years later, that I had been at the Naropa Institute, their year anniversary party or something. But the guy who picked me up, the first ride, took me from eastern suburbs of Kansas City to the middle of Kansas. And we talked a lot, but he was a musician from Nashville, and he was maybe 30 or something. And he was an older guy. And he was going up to Nebraska to go see his girlfriend who had broken up with him because he was on drugs. And he quit doing drugs and was sober and was going to get her proposed to her. And he was telling me he used to hitchhike, so he was a real hippie, a real musician. And he showed me his tracks. He showed me his arm, and he had tracks on his arm from shooting heroin.
Yeah.
And he was like, you got to be careful, be really careful. And it was, I'm always amazed that he was the first person to pick me up who was really watching out for me and giving me, it was like a big brother, just telling me about his experience and how things can go bad if you don't watch it.
Yeah. And maybe something in that stuck with you, and that
Yeah.
is why you're here today to talk about.
Yeah.
Are there other fun memories that you have that didn't make it into the book? Do
Oh,
you?
yeah, plenty. The reason I wrote like a lot of detail about sex was at the time the gay books I was reading, for the most part, there were some like City of Night was more like realistic or whatever, but they would get
Mm,
up to the sex part and just change the subject or go to the next chapter. It'd be
yeah.
really erotic and there'd be a lot of tension. And then all of a sudden they were talking about something else. And it drove me nuts. And I was like, why did they keep doing that? And I knew part of it was they wouldn't get published if they actually told what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I have to like go beyond that point and let people know what happened.
Tramps Like Us is certainly a nod to the song Born to Run.
Yes.
Does the statement Born to Run, does the concept of being born to run resonate with you? Is that sort of where that comes from?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's because I love pop music.
Yeah.
And all through the book, I tell you what song I was listening to. And
Uh-huh.
it lets you know what the time period was too. If you know the song, what was going
Totally.
on with you. And when I was in Florida at the beginning of the book, Bruce Springsteen was just starting to come out. And I met this
Mm,
kid and it was in Jacksonville Beach and I was staying with my sister and he was staying with his brother or something. But we would meet every day at the beach and we would hang out together. I wasn't even quite sure if I was gay then or I was like fighting energy or
yeah.
whatever. And my sister's roommate asked me how my boyfriend was. And she was talking about this kid that we met. And we were just like, I remember being in the water and the water up to our shoulders and we were bobbing up and down with the waves. And it was like something was going to happen. And it felt like it. And we both just had to stop it. We both got scared. But
Yeah.
he was from New Jersey and he was telling me all about Bruce Springsteen and which albums he liked. And the Born to Run album just came out then.
Something that we haven't exactly talked about yet is the real history is that the book, you finally moved to New York.
Mhm.
You were explaining to your new friends in New York about what life was like prior to getting there. And that was maybe, I'm bastardizing it a little bit, but that's part of the impetus of writing the book in the first place, of
Yeah.
sharing how you got there.
Yeah.
You, as you were saying at the beginning, you pink bubbled your agent and your publisher, and it did eventually get published. It was published in 2001. You were scheduled to celebrate the launch on your birthday, which was when?
9/11, September 11th. Yeah.
September 11th, 2001.
Yeah.
And then the book, for lack of a better word, disappeared.
Yeah.
And now here we are, so many years later, at a time, I think, where we really need, certainly as a younger generation, to experience a story like this. What has this whole journey been like for you?
The journey of republishing it or the journey from when it first came out?
I wonder, maybe a little of both, right? I think from the moment of deflation, for lack of having your
Yeah.
bubble popped, right?
That's a good word. Yeah. Yeah. I
To,
felt deflated. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
to now, as you said again earlier in the conversation, you're working on book number 2. So it is no surprise that you didn't write another book after this. So if you could
Mhm.
maybe share the journey of, okay,
Yeah.
September 11th happens and then life gets in the way.
Mhm.
And now here we are so many years later, the book
Mhm.
is back on shelves with a gorgeous cover.
While I was writing it, I wrote it mostly at this place called the Writer's Room that's in
Mm,
New York on Astor and Broadway. And it's like a 24-hour kind of office where they have cubicles that whichever one's free you can sit at. And it's for writers. And you have to be quiet there. There's a telephone room where you can go and talk or you have to go out into the lounge. But I would go in the evenings. I worked as a word processing operator in the evenings at a law firm. And I went on disability for HIV and just continued my work schedule. But instead, I already started writing stories, and I went to the writer's room like
mm,
six nights a week. I would go there from 6 to midnight and just work. But that was like 93, I think. And in 95, I got sick for the first time with AIDS. And
mm.
I had to stop for a little while and deal with that. And then I caught this virus called CMV, cytomegalovirus, and I had to do the infusions at home. I did them, it was 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours at night. So I'd go to the writer's room and then come home and do these infusions.
Mm-hmm.
It was a disease that infected your vision, or it got in your eyes. And a lot of people with AIDS at that time were going blind from it.
Yeah.
I was lucky because they caught it early. And I had like blind spots and I lost my peripheral vision. And after that, my body just fell apart. I couldn't think about writing, and couldn't even really write for a while. I just all my energy was based on getting better or getting over it. Then I started like getting back into it, and I had some stories published and things like that. And then a couple of years ago, it was during lockdown for COVID, and I had RSV, that was a virus where it was almost like having COVID. But anyway, I was really sick, and she came over and was hanging out with me. And she was like, we have to do it. We have to get the book out. And I was like, oh, when I die, somebody might find it and they'll talk about it. And she's like, no, we can't do that. You have to do it while you're alive. And she took my last two copies, my last two extra copies. And she took it to her agent, and she took it to Jackson Howard, the editor at MCD Press, / Farrar Straus. It's part of Farrar Straus. And her agent gave it to another agent that he worked with, Eloy Blyfus. And the two of them, I forgot about it. I just thought it was nice of Eileen to try and want to do it. And then a couple of weeks after she took it to them, I got an email from Jackson saying he read my book and he loved it, and would I be interested in working with him? And some other people have talked about, let's make a movie out of it and stuff like that. And they got me excited, and then it fell through. So I was like, sure, I'm open to it. Let's do it. But then half an hour later, then Eloy emailed me and said he'd read it and he wanted to represent me if I wanted him to represent me. And it was just like, that never happens. And it's like I said, you need an agent to get an editor, and you need an editor to get an agent. And I was like, I wasn't in shock, but I didn't quite trust it. But I said, I'll say yes to everything and see what happens.
And now how do you
here
feel?
We are.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm surprisingly happy. I wasn't expecting that. I'm relieved. And the book launch at Strand was amazing. And it was also like a celebration, because a lot of my friends were there and they know a lot of the health adventures I've been through. And so it was like a celebration of that. But that was a big deal. But having the book in bookstores all across the country, and I keep thinking about the kid who's like me, who is home in some little town and really lonely and doesn't know what to do, and listening to Spotify or whatever.
Or a gaze reading.
Yeah, gaze reading, listening to us now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And realizing that there's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
That's my dream. Real dream is to reach kids, and also for my friends to be remembered. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I can only imagine, thinking about it now, knowing that you wrote in the writer's room and knowing where you live, the fact that the Strand is this midpoint between where you wrote the book and where you live, and what a magical celebration.
Yeah.
It couldn't be more opposite.
How many times I've been in the Strand.
Yeah.
And when I first moved to New York, I had a sublet on Bleecker and Broadway, which is, the Strand is at 12th and Broadway. Bleecker's basically First Street, or maybe Second. First, but anyways, right down to. So one of the first places my friend who I sublet from, first place she took, in the first week I was there, when I met Eileen and Charlie, she also took me to the Strand.
Yeah. Wow.
So
talk about a full circle moment.
I know. Yeah.
And the book is out now. You have lived such a life. What you say you want to touch the young versions of you from around the country who might be in a bookstore, listening to this podcast, etc. What do you hope your legacy is?
Oh, goodness. I hadn't even thought about that. The book will be still out there,
Yeah.
hopefully, and people will continue. People who aren't even born yet will find it and hear about how we lived and what we went through. And I know it ends on a dark note, but I also feel like it's hopeful too.
Yeah, it's hopeful. And I also think, like I said, it's not a book about activism. It's not an angry book. It's a sad book, but it's not, there's no sort of shaking your fist at the sky.
Right. Yeah. No judgment. Yeah.
No judgment, no whining. Not whining is a strong word.
Yeah,
no
right.
saying, why me?
Yeah.
That's not what the book is. It's about these people living. And frankly, as a person who grew up in the 90s, where among the first things my mother said when I came out was, I'm just quote unquote worried about you. And I think the subtext was because of HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
For me to read this story and get an insight to how it all happened.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you so much for being here on Gaze Reading.
Yeah. Thank you. This was fun. Yeah.
I'm so glad. It was such a pleasure. And for sharing the story with us. Tramps Like Us.
Yeah.
Westmoreland?
Westmoreland. Yeah, that's that. You can say it however you want to say it, but Joe Westmoreland. Sometimes the accent's on the West.
But what do you use? Yours is on the more.
Westmoreland.
Tramps Like Us by Joe Westmoreland.
Yeah,
out now, wherever you get your books.
Guess Gay Reader Time.
Rob, welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
As my guest gay reader today, I have to know, what are you reading?
So I just started reading, I have it in my hands, a kind of like advanced galley copy of my friend Cora Lewis's novella, Information Age. It's like the first novella being printed by Joyland Editions, which is like a new kind of indie press. And I'm loving it so far. I'm like about halfway through. And Cora is a reporter for the AP. She was a reporter for BuzzFeed for years. I also used to work at BuzzFeed, but as an intern, like 11 years ago.
Did you do anything with the quizzes?
I'm trying to think if I made quizzes. I was working on like before BuzzFeed Food like fully existed.
Okay.
I was working on the food desk, but then I was like doing kind of random other things. Like me and the other interns we would do these articles all the time where we would basically just like talk in like a chat room, and then we'd like print whatever we were talking about. But yeah, I was doing all sorts of nonsense there as an intern. But this book is based on her experience as a reporter for BuzzFeed and like really just that kind of 2010s media ecosystem of like content farming, but also wanting to preserve like a real attention to the news. There's this sort of almost scattered manic attention to a bunch of things at once that's written into the prose, but it's also like extremely elegant and lyrical. And I think she just like captures something really interesting about the kind of way of seeing of the internet. Yeah, and like chock full of a bunch of great observations. And so I'm really loving it.
So it's exciting and maybe a little traumatic for you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like, I sort of got out while the going was good, out of this sort of like new media ecosystem where I interned at BuzzFeed the summer before my senior year of college, and I had a lot of fun. That would have been like summer of 2014, I guess, and was really like the heyday of BuzzFeed, where I literally remember writing an article about getting a mosquito bite. And it got like 1 million views or something, where it was like you could do that because just every like bored teenager was like scrolling BuzzFeed when they were supposed to be paying attention in the lecture. But I even then was a little bit like, I don't know if this is gonna last. And also, was the thing that I like about writing is like making sentences pretty, not like churning out 2 articles a day. And so very like consciously stepped away from that path. So
less triggering.
Way, I guess. It's a bit triggering, but it's also like nostalgic for that moment, which I feel like we definitely left.
Yeah. When you say BuzzFeed, my brain immediately goes to quizzes and listicles. Because
Yeah.
that's when that's
That was
for
their
me the
bread and
heyday of
butter.
BuzzFeed. Yeah. And when does that come out?
This comes out mid-July.
Oh,
I believe
amazing.
July 17th. So I'm not sure when this episode's going to come out, but hopefully
Before
it'll be
that.
like close to coming out.
Yes. This is out
before it.
mid-June.
Yes.
Happy
Okay,
Pride.
great. Happy Pride. Yep.
Is there anything else that you're reading? You don't have to be reading anything else, but I'm just curious.
What else have I been reading? It's interesting. I bet I have been reading a lot of like Friends galleys.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
do
books are
think, like,
coming out.
You have a lot of books are coming out. And yeah, I mean, it's totally an honor that I guess like once, because I have a book coming out, people are like, I'm also going to send you my book. And so that's been delightful. I've been reading my friend Alexis Okiowo's memoir, which is about growing up in Alabama. And then I also just started reading Ocean Vuong's new book. I don't know if you've read it yet.
It's sitting right there staring at me. The Emperor of Gladness.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into it. I listened to the New York Times interview, the very emotional one, which certainly made me intrigued to really dig into the novel.
Yeah, and then the conversation between him and Oprah that just happened yesterday or the day before, also very emotional.
Someone was saying that.
Yeah.
Someone was just, my friend who's a novelist was like, she really held his hand the whole time.
The whole time.
She was really holding his hand for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hand holding.
Yeah. If you're going to meet Oprah, you're going to want to hold hands. I feel like that's the point.
Yeah. I'd be like my hand would get sweaty.
Yeah.
I think I'd start to get uncomfortable, I think.
You'd have to let some setting spray on your hand.
At a certain point, it's too much. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
A quick handhold.
I should be so lucky.
I should be so lucky. I think I would excuse my usual aversion to long-term handholding were I to meet Oprah.
You have an aversion to long-term handholding?
I'm not really a handholder. I'm not really a like physical affection person. That's definitely not my kind of love language. And I would say people who I've dated have definitely observed that. Like I'm like casual touching isn't really my thing. And with my friends, absolutely not. Like friends of mine have pointed out, like I basically don't even hug them. I'm a very like, I'm not big into physical touch.
Not a hugger.
I'll give like, a hug when I'm greeting somebody. I don't.
But there's
have,
no
like
like friendly canoodling or anything.
Yeah. Or like people, I feel like I know people who will just like cuddle with their friends and talk or watch a movie. And that sounds like that's a really beautiful image of intimacy that also gives me goosebumps. So,
but you don't want to do it? Would you want to do that with a romantic partner or no?
Sure, with a romantic partner, that's more tolerable.
I'm so fascinated. Wait, what were some of your young gay teen inspirations?
Yeah, I literally named this book, I feel like, in almost every interview, but the book that kind of made me want to write was this book called Crush by Richard Seiken, which I think they're doing like a re-release for maybe the 25-year anniversary this year. And it's a book, it's poetry, it's like experimental, lyrical, like prose poetry about a doomed relationship. And it has this just like in the introduction, the poet Louise Glick, the first line in the introduction is, "This is a book about panic. The word is never mentioned," which I think is a perfect description of it. It has this kind of like panic, urgent feeling about it that I think just completely captured my interest as a 16-year-old or whatever.
I love that. And I'm fascinated by this lack of interest in physical touch and intimacy, which I love that it came up because we were talking about Ocean Vuong and Oprah. You're not dating anyone at the moment, it sounds, based on...
No, currently not. I had went through a breakup in the fall.
Okay.
And then have been casually dating. But I'm very sort of like in work mode.
The reason why I say that, or why I observe that, is because you said people that I've dated in the past. Like you made it very clear.
Yeah.
There's not someone now who's complaining about it.
Completely. No, I honestly wonder what my most recent ex-boyfriend, if he would say I was physically affectionate. I don't know. I think I've gotten better Definitely not with friends, but I think in romantic relationships,
This is a safe
I got
space.
maybe
I'm
more.
not judging in any way, shape, or form. And strangely enough, my husband and I have been together for 11 and a half years, and
Yeah.
he'll go to grab my arm while we're walking somewhere, and I'm like, get off of me. I
Yeah.
don't like feeling constricted when I'm
Yeah,
trying to like
completely.
move. Yeah, that I don't appreciate. I'll
I
maybe
relate
hold the
to that.
hand for 2 or 3 blocks, and then that's the
That's
extent
all
of
you
it.
need.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
all
I
you
do
need.
feel you. I didn't want you to feel you're not alone. I'm
Yeah.
not judging you. I'm
glad,
I
I'm
wonder where
glad.
this comes from for both of us.
Yeah,
that's
it's a
all.
good question. Yes. Something to dive in. I also
Yes.
do therapy in this room, so it's
So-
and we were talking about my relationship to sex and love this week. But no
Ooh.
breakthroughs just yet. No breakthroughs
Interesting.
just yet.
Interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
What
Keep
do
me
you need?
posted, please.
I'll dial in.
Big supporter of therapy and of breakthroughs
Yeah.
and of sex and love
Yeah.
and relationships. Rob, tell me about Great Black Hope, your debut novel.
My debut.
Congratulations. Out
Thank
now
you.
in the world. At time
Yeah.
of this episode is out now. Do you have a log line for the book?
Yeah, it's about a Black queer 20-something named Smith who, in the aftermath of an arrest for cocaine possession in Southampton, must confront his relationship to race, class, addiction, and grief in the dizzying aftermath of his best friend's mysterious death. That's my kind of very extended one-line
Yeah.
pitch.
No, that's a perfect pitch. How did the book come to be?
Yeah, I started writing like the first seed of this kind of, I think literally the day before my 26th birthday, like sitting at my parents' kitchen table in Atlanta. And I was like about to move to Berlin and was just home for a month and back in my childhood home. And I sat down and wrote 5 to 10 pages of material that's actually no longer in the book, but like a kind of character sketch of this protagonist, Smith, who, much like me, lived a life split between worlds, like this sort of like Southern Black bourgeoisie background of his parents, and then the kind of like downtown club scene of New York. And then I put it away for years until I was in grad school, and like stepping away from a different project, I like picked it back up and kept writing and eventually zeroed in on the subject of addiction as this way to really like mine all of these observations and thoughts and experiences and frustrations around like Black respectability politics, basically. Yeah. And that's how the actual plot came together.
Yeah, I love that. When I'm talking about picking books for the show, I'll read, I don't know, 15 or 20 pages just to see a vibe. So that I had already done. And then yesterday, in preparation for this conversation, wanted to revisit that. And next thing I knew, I was 100 pages in. And as I was complaining to you earlier, you sucked me in, and I can't wait to get off this call and finish the book because it's so propulsive and readable. And
I appreciate
I'm
it.
so excited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Something I have been asking everybody in this time, where I think it is important to amplify others and those around us and those we love. Rob Franklin, if you were to die tomorrow, who would you ask to delete the search history on your computer?
Oh, wow. That's such a good question. My sister, where in a way I was debating between my best friend and my sister, but I think my sister, in part because I think she would learn a lot about me through that endeavor.
Interesting.
And we're very close, but I do think that there's like a kind of world of curiosities and frustrations that I don't express to her. And I think it would be like an interesting experience in kind of, like seeing past the kind of like veil. And yeah, I think she would learn a lot about me. I also, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I do from time to time use ChatGPT to explore, often to like quell certain anxieties.
I
'Cause
don't
it can
think you're
both
alone.
provide actual information and also can talk you down. And my sister works in the government and is very anti-AI, understandably, and is like very involved in getting regulation in place surrounding AI. And so I think it would be very interesting for her to go through my ChatGPT history.
Interesting.
Because I don't think she's ever opened the platform, which I love about her and I respect, but I have.
I love that she's not just clicking clear history.
Yeah, no, she's digging in. She's clearing one by one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
For
that.
sure.
And I also love that there's no apparent anxiety or concern about that from you. You're like, you want to be the open book posthumously.
Yeah. After I'm gone, it's like, you dive in.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Hold my hand, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I love that. We love sisters. What's her name?
Her name is Amani.
Amani. We love Amani. Shout out to Amani. Thank you for
Shout out to Amani.
clearing our search history for us. As I said on, I think it's actually this week's episode, my sisters, I would ask both of them to do it. One would not read through everything. The other one, 100% would read through everything. So
yeah, I can't imagine not reading through everything. Especially, I would think if somebody asked me to, it didn't even occur to me, the idea that somebody would just clear it. Yeah, I would also think if somebody asked me to do that, I'd be like, clearly they wanted me to see everything.
Interesting.
I'd be treating it like a puzzle. I'd be like, there's something I'm supposed to be figuring out about them.
Oh, maybe like a mysterious death of a friend.
Perhaps.
So
Yeah.
you're clearly in a genre. Everyone go get a copy of Great Black Hope by Rob Franklin, out now, wherever books are sold. Rob, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And
Thanks so much for having me. You too.
Joe, Rob, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, appreciate you as always. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great weekend. I will see you next week. Bye.